Hi everybody, and welcome to Traveling with Russell, and welcome to a new video, and welcome to the center of Moscow. Yes, I'm right here in Red Square, and I thought I'd take you around some of the luxury shops here in the center of Moscow, and a couple of small sort of shopping arcades to see what stores are open, how does it feel, what is it like today, and just have a nice walk around at the same time. So if you've never been to Russia before, or you've never been to Moscow before, more than likely the St. Basil's Cathedral right in front of us here. It's probably one of the most iconic kind of sites in all of the center of Moscow and maybe throughout all of Russia. And you can see today there is a lot of people here taking photos, taking selfies, trying to get that perfect angle for a photo. And then we'll see here Spassky Tower, which has got the very famous clock right at the top there. It's 4:45 p.m. that I'm walking around. It was actually sunny about an hour ago, and all of a sudden the clouds have come over. So it was really very nice. So that's how you'll see so many people just in short sleeve shirts, dresses. Pretty much nobody's carrying a jacket today, but the actual Red Square itself is fenced off at the moment, because on Monday they've got Russia Day here, and they've got a very, very big concert that they're going to host, and they're just building the stage off in the distance. It's always strange when you come to Red Square and all this is closed down, because they fence it off so far back from what they're doing. But that's Lenin's Mausoleum just here on the left-hand side. And then we're going to walk through GUM and take a look at some of the stores there. And then we're going to walk over towards the Bolshie Theater and have a look at some of the shopping in that area around where the Bolshie Theater is. So kind of the point of making this video is actually to show the luxury shopping market here in Russia, and particularly here in Moscow, and how a lot of the stores are still here. Some of them are not here. You know, what's open, what's closed. I haven't actually walked around this kind of part of Moscow for a couple of months, so it'll be interesting just for me to even see it myself. So we'll see right in front of me here is GUM, G-U-M. So you actually pronounce it like chewing gum, or chewing gum. It's very interesting when you try to pronounce it if you aren't sort of from here, and even I probably get it wrong. You can see here all these fences that are kind of stopping us getting a little bit more in the middle of Red Square. And we're going to head down this street right here and have a look inside GUM. So let's head on inside GUM, shall we? They've got these very big revolving doors to get us on inside. If you come here in winter, it's so nice to walk from outside in the cold and then come in here and then see this big glass roof here that kind of protects the whole shopping arcade. Essentially it's three lines or lanes, and then there's these roofs that kind of cover over this inside area. You can see here Bulgari, or do some people say Bulgari? Well, Bulgari is not here. Actually, everything is gone from inside, pretty much barring the merchandise. All the furniture's still there, but it's certainly not open. And we have on the left here Paul Smith. Not too sure who Paul Smith is, but he sounds very British, doesn't he? And this store is definitely open, and all of the stuff inside. I'm not sure how much those teacups are, but looks like he's kind of a clothing designer of some kind. And then right next door there is Van Cleef & Arpels, which is actually not here also. So all these stores have got all the lights on, they've got all of the kind of displays set up, but there is nothing in the cupboards, in the display showcases. It's all empty here. can actually even see Mont Blanc here as well. Now this is actually all empty as well. Maybe they just demonstration pens on the left, but for sure all the jewelry is not here. This particular shopping mall is so nice to walk around. I mean, I'm always curious how many people really genuinely are shopping here versus people like myself just wandering through and getting themselves the famous Gum ice cream. It's kind of the thing to do when you come to this shopping center is get yourself the 100 ruble ice cream. So we'll see here right ahead of us Rolex. So the Rolex store is very much open. Actually, the security guard was just by the door there. He's tucked himself away. Everything's on display and set up. I'm not too sure how many customers they need a day to be successful in Rolex, but they have a watch in the window there. Rolex is always known for their very minimalistic displays. So just one watch counts for a window display. What's kind of interesting walking around this shopping center is the brands that are on display here. So we see Omega, and then there's a few other upscale brands in this part of the store here. This is basically a multi-brand watch store with all of the famous brands under one, I guess, umbrella store. So this is Ulysse Nardin. Not too sure of this name. Over here, some of them will look kind of familiar. Longines. And then here is Gucci. So I call it Gucci, but it's really Gucci. 25-hour clock? What? Gucci have found a way to get one more hour in the day? That's kind of interesting. And then here is Chanel. Maybe some people call it Canal. So Rado as well right here. So this is actually essentially one store, but it's actually selling all the brands of watches. You can see here also Tag Heuer. Kind of thought that guy was going to tell me off for filming, but he just sort of smiled. Yeah, this is kind of interesting in this shopping center, just to talk about this, that all of these brands that may have announced that they've left Russia, the stores that were here, or the individual stores, are not here, but now all of the brands are being sold under a multi-brand company, and the one that's in this particular shopping center, Bosco. So it's basically Bosco that's running the store and then selling the watches under their brand of store name. And this goes the same also for all the different perfume and cosmetic houses as well. And this is Articoli. I think I always get that name wrong. So they've got basically the brand of the perfume store. This Articoli is all around this middle island of the shopping center here. And then they've got all the different perfume brands. And then all of the ladies out with the samples. And all of these international brands of perfume still exist in Russia because they're sold under the Articoli perfume company brand name. And there's a beautiful water fountain here. Now they kind of have it choreographed to music. The exact minute that I come to look at it, and the water shuts off. And then they've got the famous ice cream stalls all the way around the outside here. Here's another good example of this multi-brand store concept. So there's a store here called Jeans Club, and in the window just below the sign here, they've got all the different brands that they're selling. So Hugo, Calvin Klein, and essentially it's a jeans store, or at least a clothing store, and it has all the brands inside versus having the brands as individual stores that, you know, claim that they're not in Russia any longer, and then they're being sold under this Jeans Club brand name. It's kind of very hard to get a grasp of how big this shopping center is. I mean, it is absolutely stunning just to walk around here and just, I guess, for a minute, pretend that I can afford to walk into some of these stores and buy some of the products. I'm very much a department store kind of shopper myself, but you know, it's such a beautiful place, and to see some of the brands that have left, and then some of them have just changed the name on the door. I can't really explain that feeling of that, you know, as someone that works in retail all his life, you know. It's good for business, but then, you know, in terms of the brand's reputation, has it affected it in a way by them actually leaving, but yet they're still here? So as we almost reach the exit of GUM, I always find this KitchenAid stand very interesting. This has actually been here for quite a few years, so whoever is this owner of KitchenAid, or essentially the person selling it in Russia here, must pay a fortune for this kind of pop-up stand here, and to have these essentially just mixers on show. They must be paying so much money for the advertising in the middle of this shopping center. As we almost reach the exit, and have a look back again at the ceiling here. Just the complexity of the construction of this place, what they would have done all those years ago, is really just mesmerizing to think. Mariana Rinaldi, actually a few ladies in there. And then the last store as we head on out here, Salvador Ferragamo. Please tell me if I've got any of these names wrong. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing them. This place is definitely open. No shoppers inside. As we walk on outside to Nicoleskaya Street. Now I'm going to ask one more time. Let me know in the comments. Do you want to see a separate tour of the historical toilets here in GUM? They've got this very nice walkway. There's even sofas down there at the entrance. We could do a separate video just on the historical toilets. I mean, is a toilet review gonna get views on YouTube? Let me know in the comments. So this out on the street here, it's kind of interesting, the Omega store here. So this is right on the corner of the entrance and exit. So essentially the store is closed and there's no products or staff or anything like that. But as we saw inside the shopping center, you could go to one of the multi-brand stores and still buy the watches. And as we walk down Nicoleskaya Street, probably made famous by these fairy lights from the World Cup that I've lived on 4.5 years now. They're very nice in a couple of hours when it gets a little bit darker. With the longer daylight hours now, they don't sort of take too much of effect initially. A lot of the stores on this street tend to be souvenir stores, more so than brand stores. There is going to be some shops further down, but it's very much a tourist walkway. But is there any tourists to be found in the center of Moscow? You see here one of the buildings looking like it's coming out of remodeling, and they're finally taking down the scaffolding and revealing their hard work probably for the last 6 months or a year. Let's walk a bit further down here, shall we? Now, I've walked along Nicoleskaya Street thousands of times, not even hundreds, thousands, to walk around the center of Moscow, and to see, you know, so many stores not open is definitely not a good thing. I mean, the rent here must be astronomical as well. And I think that's really holding back a lot of smaller stores coming into where these kind of brand stores essentially close their Moscow locations. You know, it's really not nice. You'll see this whole stretch here of shops not open. Now, I do have a question for everybody around the world watching. Has anyone been to a Baccarat store before? Now, of course, I'm sure a lot of people know the famous Crystal, but has anyone been to a standalone store? They have one right here in the center of Moscow. I'm very curious if anyone's been to one before, shopped in one. Maybe you own some Crystal yourself, but I have this store right here on Nicoleskaya Street. Lots of people around. This street is very well known for where you're going to meet friends. You know, get-togethers. Here is La Lique, as well. This is another kind of brand similar to Baccarat, but kind of, like, let's say, competing brand names. These big vases right here in the window. And then where I want to show you here is just up on the right-hand side. And this is where I want to walk down Treacherkovsky Plochett, or Treacherkovsky Square or Lane. I always tend to get these names wrong or mixed up, but this is also another place with a lot of the very well-known luxury brands. And being that it's warmer weather now, they've got this outdoor cafe. Have a look at the king crab right there in the display, along with the champagne. But a lot of the luxury brands here. I'm not too sure who is Kiton, but Chopard, Mercury. We've got this very beautiful cafe right here. And then all of these upscale stores. And they even have the matting on the floor for ladies who have the high heels that are unable to walk on these cobblestones. And especially if you come in winter here, they're very hard to walk on, but they put their own kind of like a carpet down, if you like, along this laneway. Here's more of the Mercury store. Garaf. This is probably one of the most expensive lanes here in the center of Moscow by a long way. Tom Ford, Saint Laurent. Please tell me if I'm getting these names right. Giorgio Armani right there, but a beautiful place to walk. Wine and crab. Whenever I walk around these kind of places, I always get looked at a little bit funny because I'm not probably dressed appropriately for walking in these kind of lanes and shops, but you know, everything is open and you can walk around as you like. But it's just nice to show these to you in one video. Hopefully it's not too long a video by the time we get to the end. We've got a couple more streets ahead of us to check out here, and you're going to see, you know, some of the other luxury brands here in Moscow. And we can see from the other end of the lane here, Dolce & Gabbana. And then looking back, there is Ralph Lauren on the left-hand side, and another part of the Baccarat store there. But such a beautiful place to walk, even if you aren't going shopping. Now, if you have watched some of my other videos, you probably might recognize the Central Children's Store right there. That's a shopping center essentially only for children. There's a couple of food courts in there as well. I've done a separate video on that. You can check that out in the playlist. What I really wanted to show you was the corner of this shopping arcade that we walked through has a Bentley car dealership right here. And this is kind of, for me it's crazy, but for somebody else maybe not. But especially absolutely in the center of Moscow. The actual shopping arcade itself actually has 3, 4, 5 levels, and there's a lot of private boutiques which are essentially not, let's call it, open to the public, but they're there. And then this Bentley car dealership. Would you like to see car dealership videos? Let me know. As all of the traffic goes whizzing by the road right here. Now, as we cross the street here, and all the cars stop for everybody, probably might be a recognizable building right in front of you here. This is the Bolshie Theater, or the Bolshie Ballet. Beautiful, beautiful place. Actually, have a look at this Aurus right here on the right hand side. This is the Russian Rolls Royce. Oh, have a look at the car. Oh my gosh, beautiful car. I just wonder who's inside. We'll wave just in case they're waving back. And it seems like the rain is gonna start. I didn't think it was gonna rain today. And I just noticed a few ladies here with umbrellas. So maybe the ladies know better than I do. I should always pay attention when I'm catching the bus into Moscow, what people are carrying. But again, this is Bolshie Theater right here. Such a beautiful spot. Now as we walk along the side of the Bolshie Theater, these are the kind of back entrances or exits. The other very well-known shopping center in the center of Moscow is Sum. This is kind of like the brother sister of Gum, and this has some of the very luxurious brands inside as well. This is essentially a department store, so it's not a standalone brand store, but it has all of the brands inside. I'm not particularly well dressed today to go in there, but we'll walk further down to Kuznetsky Mosque Street and check out some of the stores there instead. Now, if I remember rightly, the last time I think I walked around this area in a video, it was also raining. And I'm just thinking now, am I cursed every time I come to make these luxury store videos? That it just, the heavens open and they telling me something, Russell, you shouldn't be making this kind of video. But it's just strange. Anytime I'm in this area, it rains. So one of the other very, very famous streets in the center of Moscow is Kuznetsky Mosque, which is right ahead of us, and essentially where I'm walking at the same time. You can see these very nice older buildings here, and the one that's wrapped up on the right hand side there was where the very big 4-level Nike store was, or Nike, but of course it's no longer there, and now they're doing some kind of remodeling there. But it's very interesting. And then I just want to point out on the corner here, this was the Adidas store, so it's been closed, what, a year and a half or more now, and I would imagine that they've got a very long, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 year lease on this place, because nobody's moved in here, no one's took it over. The actual Adidas signs, well, they're kind of hanging in there, and actually they had a very prominent spot here on the corner as well, but nobody has took over this. I would imagine whoever owns the building is happy collecting the rent, even if nobody's in the store operating it. And then we can see here Tag Heuer, or what was Tag Heuer, and the same thing again. Nothing's happened to this store, signage is still there, and it does look like maybe next door they're doing a little bit of work. Здравствуйте, hello. These guys switched off their machine for a few minutes. They're doing some tiling. Looks like maybe the Longines store. Either they're fixing it up or they're changing it, who knows. And then the other stores on the right seem to have all found brands to open here. The actual one, I think it was either the Intermissum here, the one next door was the Tommy Hilfiger store. And then we'll see a bit further down where Omega is. So they're doing a whole lot of work here. So somebody's spending a whole lot of money doing this remodeling at the same time. But all these stores, a year and a half closed, and nobody here. And then looking back up Kuznetsky Mosque Street, there is actually a few stores closed on the right hand side, but the other kind of big building right here was all of the luxury stores. This was where Cartier was. So the lights are on for the store, but again, this has been empty now for a year and a half, if not longer. And more than likely, again, these companies are still paying the rent, or they've got a very long lease, and they have to kind of stay here, even if they're not here, and keep the lights on. And then on the next building over, you can see here what was the Chanel store, and once again it's all just papered over the windows. The signage hasn't been removed, so it's kind of a sign that the companies are still paying the rent to be here, and they want to keep that brand presence. You know, do you think it's right that those signs should still be there if they're not here, or what do you think? Should the signs be taken down? I mean, I guess it's down to the owners of the buildings and what kind of lease agreements they've got, which kind of makes it interesting. And then there is one store open here. The next one over, Yves Salomon. I don't know too much about this brand, but they've got that kind of store in between the two closed stores. They kind of tucked in the middle. And I almost found myself somewhere to have a drink, but De Beers, it doesn't have beers, it has diamonds. And the one security guard in there and the staff, I don't see them actually there, but the store is definitely open. It's actually a fairly big store, and interestingly, it's in the same building as Marriott, which still has the sign up there. Has Marriott left? Has Marriott changed names? And these are beautiful, beautiful buildings. It's no question about the style of these buildings and the design of them. Walford here on the left hand side. Are they open? They do look like they're open. This is looks like ladies' clothing from the look of the store here. And then in one shot we're gonna go from these rented bikes to this almighty big Gucci store. That's not a Gucci store at the moment. It's an empty building with the lights on, but nobody's home. Now it does look a little bit dark and gloomy, but this last street that we're going to walk up, it's called Stolia Shinkov Lane, and this kind of completes the walk around of the Golden Mile, as I like to call it here in Moscow. This 12 stores shop. Now I'm not sure if this is the exact location, but one of them in Moscow closed as a by appointment only store, and they did it I think for a few weeks or a month. I think they realized that they didn't get enough people coming shopping, by appointment. And I think this might be the location right in front of us here. They, stores where they think they can just get people who are going to come by appointment. I mean, I know that's a thing, but, it's, I don't know what they're thinking business-wise. And have a look at this. Mirror polished stainless steel called Agatha. That's pretty cool. I'm going to give everybody a wave. Here I am in my shorts and t-shirts, but that's a pretty cool sculpture, by the way. And then have a look here. This is where the kind of Golden Mile of Moscow goes downhill a little bit very quickly. You'll see here Dior's kind of boarded up and no longer, and then just how quiet this kind of laneway feels. There is a couple of stores here. A billionaire. Do you want to be a billionaire? Is that the song? I wonder if billionaires go shopping there. This was Fendi, which is not very Fendi any longer. And they always put these kind of sheets over the buildings when they're doing some kind of work on the upper levels. But there is not much going on. Most people are just using this laneway to walk between the different parts of the center of Moscow. Salvador Ferragamo. I wonder if this location is open or not. I think we'll kind of just do this walk uncut if we can. But even just the upkeep of the laneway here isn't the best. I think Ferragamo is open. That's the security guard at the door there. But nobody around. And there is a very nice jewelry store here. Damiani. Please tell me these names are well known. It just isn't the same, this laneway, without all these brands open and that kind of you know, that kind of vibe. Is it a vibe that you get? The Dior store is no longer here on the right hand side. And then there is a few stores that are kind of open here. St. James, I'm not too sure about. What's this one? Bee Gees? Looks like a kind of young fashion shoe store. But yeah, it's a very kind of quiet place to walk along here. The difference here with this lane and the Nicoleskaya, they've actually got the real lights here. I wonder if they're trying to mimic the look of Nicoleskaya Street with these lights. They get very, very nice a little bit later on in a few hours. And then the Moo Moo. Is that their name? Moo Moo? That looks closed as well. Well, there is stuff in the window. The store looks closed. And then there's a couple that are open on the left here, but I just think that as a whole, this street, you know, if you go back a couple of years ago, it would have had a much different feel to it. Harry Winston is a very, very famous jewelry store, which is no longer as well. And then here on the left, Hermes is also closed. So we're not doing too well. I mean, this was the point of the video, is to come and have a walk around this golden mile of Moscow and have a look at the good and the bad, let's call it. And I wonder, I do see people coming out of these different doorways. So the offices upstairs from the shops seem to be trading, and then other places seem to be completely closed. I'm not sure what brand this one was, but it's also not here. No worries. I don't remember which brand. It was in every single store as we walk along here. And we can see here, this one was Fendi, because it's actually written just up on the glass there. But just have a look at the condition of the building so quickly, how much they kind of deteriorate, you know, with just a year of being closed. And then over on the left, a very famous Louis Vuitton, which is no more Louising, it's just Vuittoning for now. They actually had a very big kind of two-store kind of shop, and then you actually had these back laneway entrances here, and Louis Vuitton is not open any longer. It's just it is a shame. I mean, especially this laneway here, it's just so iconic, you know, as the Golden Mile. And then the Prada store here is also not open. So the stores kind of want to look like they're here. They've got stuff in the windows, but the shop is definitely not open and trading. As we have a look down the laneway where we walked. Okay, everybody, we've come to the end of the video, and I just want to ask everybody what you thought. You know, the luxury brands that are in Russia, that aren't in Russia. You know, there's a very big contrast when you walk around, especially these outdoor kind of walking streets here, especially where I am in this particular street, and all the brands that have essentially disappeared, and just how empty this street feels. You know, it's not the same as it was 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. That's definitely noticeable. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Are you a brand shopper? Do you like all these kind of brands that I pointed out? I mean, this video is intentionally about a lot of the luxury brands that are in Russia, aren't in Russia. So it was kind of made specifically to show that. So yeah, I put another video for you to watch after this one. If you want to click another video on the channel, You can check that out right away. Maybe an older video you've not seen before. Thank you everybody if you're a subscriber. Also channel members, thank you so much. And a shout out to the young lady I met on the street by Bolshie Theater. I posted a photo in the Telegram group. It was nice to chat to you and for you to sort of see me in the street filming. So yeah, thanks a lot. I'm off on another adventure. Bye everybody.